Video mode activated.
What is, guys? Today, welcome video. In today's video, we're gonna be taking a look at a highly requested knife, the Kershaw Lucha. This knife was sent to me for review by Kershaw themselves a while back, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I've had the chance to daily drive this knife for a good while now, and have found it to be pretty interesting. Now, one thing I wanna bring up real quick is that we're starting a Patreon. If you want more information about that, please check the link in the description, or stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm gonna talk all about the different tiers and what you can expect from us. Of course, if you like this video, please be sure to drop a like down below. Also, I'll be making a review of the, oh no, I need the BB Barfly Pro V2. Soon I'll be making a review of the new BB Barfly Pro V2, so subscribe so you don't miss that. No, Brandon, we can't threaten them to subscribe, that's illegal. No, Brandon, put down the gun. Anyways, this knife is interesting to me for a myriad of reasons. One of which, of course, is that it's from a top knife brand like Kershaw, and it being at such a cheap price point, it makes it a great entry-level offering. But is this knife even worth that cheap price point? Is it any good? Will my friend Austin's spirit ever be freed of the afterlife, or will Brandon's harsh actions hang over his mortal coil like a cloak of shame for all eternity? Find out in today's episode of Will Reviews a Thing. Will Reviews a Thing. Will Reviews a Thing. Will Reviews a Thing.
Will Reviews a Thing.
All right, let's talk Lucha. The Lucha is a very interesting knife overall. Specs-wise, it's got stainless steel handles, which brings the weight to a meaty 5.9 ounces. The knife itself is huge at 10¼ inches open with a big clip point blade. The moment I got it out of the box, the first thing I noticed is how large it seems in my baby hands. This knife really is a big boy. This knife runs off of bearings, which makes me very happy. Some people hate them and some love them, but bearings are a great addition for cheaper knives because they give both great tolerances and good swing almost for free. In most cases, you can just slap bearings on a knife and it'll perform way better than just washers. For instance, the cheap Balisong, which is only $30, has great swing. Speaking of knives with just washers, this knife reminds me a lot of the BRS bare bones, if the bare bones wasn't terrible. Basically, take the weight of the bare bones and add better tolerances and feel all around, and you've got the Lucha. Oh, it's also like $100 cheaper. Whoops. Fit and finish-wise, this knife is surprisingly premium with great attention to detail all around. Every edge has been chamfered and the bead-blasted handles match well with the stonewash blade. The blade also is interesting, with holes in the tang and strange space-age looking horns. The laser etching on the blade is also pristine. I really do like their design language with this one. It's not too derivative of any one thing and does stand out among the crowd. As a first entry into Balisongs from a big company, I'm pretty impressed with what Kershaw has done design-wise. Looking at the handles, you'll find a very interesting hole pattern, with one cutout running the length of the handles, followed by diamond-shaped holes. It feels pretty good in the hand, though I did find the handles to be a bit thin-feeling overall, which does impact fanning performance. The grips are very comfortable in the hand, though, and do provide great friction for almost any trick. Down at the bottom of the handles, you'll find screws holding it together that also give good grippage. Speaking of the bottom of the handles, that latch. That latch has to go ASAP. It is so heavy, being made of solid steel, and it totally throws off the balance. Thankfully, it is very easy to remove with just 2 T6 size screws holding it in. After removing the screws, you can just pull the latch right out from the handles. Now, we'll talk about how it flips in just a moment, but first I'd like to bring up exactly what it is that excites me so much about this knife. You see, I think the Lucha is exciting for a similar reason to the Benchmade 51. Mods. The Kershaw Lucha is an even better platform for mods than the 51 for a good number of reasons. The construction is simple, and the bearings already being a part of the knife make it easy to work with. Plus, this knife itself is much cheaper from the start, which makes it a great option for people starting to get into mod work. There are already some cool options out there when it comes to mods, such as the Flightanium scales, but for this video, I've been given the opportunity to try out some of the mods Spasm Fingers has made. Spasm Fingers is known for having made some awesome stuff before, such as the long finger mod for the 51. So getting to try his prototype mods for the Lucha is super cool. There are 2 mods in question here, one being the aluminum long finger mod, and the other being the G10 replacement handles. In the upcoming flipping portion, I'll tell you how both perform against the stock knife. For now though, let's get a good look at these mods. First up, we have the long finger mod, which replaces the standard steel slabs with aluminum and lengthens them by quite a bit. This mod is very striking from one look, and I really like it as a concept. Spasm Fingers has been known for liking longer knives, and this is no exception. It takes what is already a pretty huge knife and almost turns it into a bally sword. Overall, the handles do feel sturdy even with the added length, and I love the adjustability of balance provided by the ball weights held into the handles. The second mod in question is the G10 Replacement Scales. This mod is a good concept, but sadly it isn't that great in practice. I found it to be way too light overall, even with the brass counterweights, and I think something like aluminum or titanium is a better idea than just plain G10. Another problem with this one is the flexibility of the G10 was far too much, leaving a lot of room for play and also making it hard to turn the screws as you put them into the knife. While these are just prototypes, these mods illustrate perfectly what makes me so excited about this thing. Anybody with access to measurements and CAD software could get parts CC'd for this knife, which means that there's a lot of awesome possibilities in the future. Alright, let's talk about how this thing flips. My impression of this knife changed quite a lot over the period of me using it. You see, at first I was pretty unimpressed because it felt very clunky and hard to flip. Now, after giving it much more time, my fingers got used to the weight, and overall I found it to be a shockingly competent flipper for the money, even while totally stock. The bearings are really the boon of this design. They allow for great swing and tolerances while also keeping the cost low and the maintenance easy. I find the action of this knife to be very good even while tight, with great performance in rollovers and very predictable aerials. I also find this knife carries momentum very well, as you might expect from its weighty handles. You can just keep going and going and going with rollover style combos. This thing can be bad, however, for ricochets, as you now have to stop the full weight of the knife every time, though it is something you'll get used to the more you flip it. Speaking of places where the weight can be a problem, fanning this knife is a little odd. The heavy nature of the handles can make it hard to start a fan, and when combined with the thinner than regular handles, it's definitely weird. Fanning is not impossible, however, and after spending enough time, I got used to the force required plus the odd shape, and I was able to get both standard and choker fans very consistently on it. The balance of this knife is pretty handle heavy, but it's also not terrible. It hugs your finger well in chaplains, and is very predictable in aerials, and even performs shockingly well at parabolics. One thing I did find is due to the weight of this knife, it does feel a bit like it's digging into your finger during chaplains, but nobody's perfect. Brandon, you're in the shot.
What? Oh.
I've found this knife pulls off most difficult tricks I throw at it now with ease, including palm spins, choker fans, and even ladders. Though the weight of this knife might pull it right out of your grip during ladders if your fingers aren't swole enough, so make sure not to skip finger day at the gym. So overall, I think this is a pretty good knife for anybody, from people looking to get into the hobby to experienced flippers looking for something that they can beat. It's very heavy, as I've covered, which takes some getting used to, but as with anything, practice does make perfect. Unfortunately, this knife doesn't place very high on my Balisong list, falling just under the Ryworks Omeme trainer. I think it's a fine option, but it's much more of an EDC focused knife than a real high-tier flipper. But of course, I think that's exactly what it's trying to be, which works great. If you are considering the Lucha and you're okay dealing with a heavy knife, or you think you might mod it, definitely go for it. It's well worth the money, especially at around $120 on Blade HQ and Knife Center. But if the under $300 range is your price tag, I do have a few suggestions that you might like better. Trainer-wise, there is the Squid Trainer version 3.5 and the BB Barfly Pro V2, which is right here, review coming soon, and the Svix Gale, which I already reviewed, and of course the cheap Trainer, which I also suggest. I have so many knives. Live blade-wise, you can get some great stuff from Atropos, which I reviewed, like the Karat or the Demon, or you could go with the Crackerakin, which I reviewed, from Squid Industries. All of these knives are great and would be good alternatives to the Lucha for you to consider. But that's pretty much it for today's video. I want to extend a big thank you to Kershaw for sending the Lucha for me to review. Funnily enough, I actually contacted Blade HQ in regards to doing a review of the Lucha, but was told no. So having Kershaw come directly to me afterwards was quite the shock. That's right, Blade HQ, I don't need you!
Yeah!
No, Brandon, no more guns.
I am down here for 8 hours a day. And you expect me, you don't expect me to have a gun. You don't expect me to always have a gun when I'm sitting right here on the floor for hours. Fine, sure.
We recently reached 5,000 subscribers, which is an awesome milestone. My plan right now is that if we can reach 10,000 subscribers in the future, I'll be doing a Lucha giveaway. I think that would be an amazing point to reach, and if you'd like to help me reach it, consider subscribing, and also sharing my videos with your friends. The more these spread around, the faster we'll get there. All right, I'm gonna go off script for a moment here and talk about the Patreon that we just set up. These videos take a lot of time to both shoot and edit, and it really is just me and Brandon doing all of it. If you guys would like to support us and would like to see more of these please consider subscribing to the Patreon. We have 3 tiers that'll each offer different things, and I think it'll honestly be pretty fun. The lowest tier is gonna offer access to our Discord server that we're making, as well as your name in the credits of every video, and some fun behind the scenes stuff. The second tier is gonna have full-length behind the scenes, as well as gag reels, which will be really fun to make for these videos, because I mess up all the time.
It happens all the time. I see it, and you can see it too. For one low price.
For one low price. With that tier, you'll also get your name at the top of the credits at the end of every video, so people can see that you really support me. Finally, there's the VIP tier, which is going to have access to the VIP Discord as well as bigger stuff on the Patreon. Alongside that, once a month, me and Brandon are going to be doing a Discord chat for the VIP Patreons where you can ask us anything. It'll be honestly pretty fun. This tier is really just for people who want to go the extra mile and support us, and your name will appear at the top, not in the credits, but it'll just stay there at the end of every video. So thank you so much, and please consider subscribing to the Patreon. Remember, my Instagram is @VolpineAudio, and on there you can find announcements for these videos as well as behind the scenes posts. I also try to respond as many messages as I can on there, so if you have any questions, that is the place to ask. I also try to be active in the comments, so if you have anything you'd like to say down there, please do. Also, don't forget to follow my camera guy @TheBrandonBaker on Instagram. He's the one that makes these videos look as pretty as they do, and he's also a cold-hearted killer. Definitely drop him a follow on there for some awesome photography and videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment. Now, if you'll excuse me, Brandon and I are gonna go bring Austin's soul back from the cruel clutches of the afterlife.
Hi.